You are listening to The Brycen Show. Episode 002 in the Paranormal series. I don't know why I'm putting this in the Paranormal series, but I really didn't have anywhere else to put it. Man-eating wolves, werewolves, the Beast of Gavaudan. And I just did this. I thought it was interesting. Anyways, the Beast of Gavaudan. This is from unknowncreatures.com. No, this is from Wikipedia. Is a name given to man-eating wolf-like animal alleged to have terrorized the former province of Gavaudan in the Margeride Mountains in south-central France from 1764 to 1767 over an area stretching 90 by 80 kilometers, or 56 by 50 miles. The beasts were consistently described by witnesses as having formidable teeth and immense tail. Their fur had a reddish tinge and was said to have emitted an unbearable odor. It killed its victims by tearing at their throats with their teeth. The exact number of victims differs according to the source. De Beaufort estimated 210 attacks, resulting in 113 deaths and 49 injuries. 98 of the victims were killed or partly eaten. An enormous amount of manpower and resources was used in the hunting of the animal, including the army, conscripted civilians, several nobles, and a number of royal huntsmen. All animals operated outside of ordinary wolf packs, though eyewitnesses' accounts indicate that they sometimes were accompanied by a smaller female which did not take part in the attacks. The story is a popular subject for cryptozoologists. Although several explanations have been put forward, the exact identity of the creature remains unexplained to this day. This next reading is from unknowncreatures.com/Beasts of Gavaudan. This creature was reported being as big as a large calf or young cow. It was discovered with a fur that was reddish, the head was big and wolf-like, and more brown than the rest of the body. The jaws are always gaping, the ears are short and straight, the chest white and very broad, the tail very long and thick, the tip white. The back paws very big and long, according to some, having hooves like a horse. Those of the front were shorter and covered with a long fur, having 6 claws to each paw. Once, when the creature was sighted crossing a river, it raised itself on its hind legs and waded over it like a human being. Furthermore, it was very agile and extremely strong. It was sometimes sighted in locations very far apart on the same day. When hunting, it crawled almost with its belly to the ground. One shepherd claimed it could stand up on its rear legs and was strong enough to lift a full-grown sheep with its arms. Dogs fled in terror from it, as did most other animals. One odd fact worth noting is that some measurements of distances between footprints showed the creature could make leaps of over 28 feet on level ground when running. This next reading is from voices.yahoo.com, The Real Wolfman, Beast of Gavaudan, by Michael Seeger. The beast was a wolf, of that everyone was sure, particularly unnerving. However, was that unlike other wolves, it preferred human prey to cattle, as if the mysterious carnivore had a distinct taste for human flesh. It was a wolf, but it was large as a bull. It had a wolf's claws and teeth, but it also had devil's horns. There were all manner of distinct markings in the fur, although it seems unlikely that one could have mistaken the Beast of Gavaudan for anything else. There was just one problem. No one who had had a close encounter with the beast had lived to tell about it. Of course, everyone knew someone whose uncle had been talking with a soldier in a tavern in the next town, or some other town, whose sister had definitely seen the beast. This creature from some other world, this demon. The military patrolled the woods, and toward the end of September all was quiet. But on the first day of October the killings resumed. Since most of the victims had been women and children, the provincial governor prohibited unaccompanied women and children from working in the fields. A serious wolf hunt was undertaken and wolves were killed, but the Beast of Gavaudan continued in its bloody ways. There were victims of whom so little remained that priests refused to conduct a funeral. In January 1765 it was reported that the beast set upon a group of people, who wounded it and drove it away, but the killings continued. The beast of Gvaudan was again wounded after some 20,000 men hunted it. Despite a storm of bullets, many of which were said to have reached their target, the next day the beast killed again. The church deemed the beast a punishment sent by God to the people of Gvaudan. 8 people were killed in March. On one otherwise fair day in the month of May, 4 people lost their lives to the beast, which seemed to have lost any fear of human beings. As it was seen in the towns at night, walking on its hind legs, as it were, the people shuddered. A werewolf. Not just possibly a werewolf, but definitely a werewolf. There was a man who lived alone in the forest, so he must have been a werewolf. Captured and questioned, he attacked his unlucky questioner, howling like... well, he was howling as he was thrown into prison. Special wolf hunters with their dogs came from Paris and actually killed the wolf, but the beast of Gvaudan continued to kill. And this next reading is from io9.com, The Modern Day Hunt for Francis Beast of Gvaudan. Jean-Baptiste Duhamel, a dragoon captain stationed near Gvaudan, mustered up a force of 20,000 plus citizens to search for the beast, with no success. Duhamel communicated closely with Courrier d'Avignon, the only newspaper in the area, exacerbating the fear of the creature and circulating renditions of the beast in print. Francois Antoine, the royal gun-bearer, succeeded in tracking down and killing a creature in 1775, returning the 6-foot looping for display in Versailles. Despite Antoine's success, the attacks continued, disgracing Louis XV and French forces. A second kill is attributed to Jean Chastel, a local hunter, in 1767. The beast's stomach contained the rotten remains of a human. The legend of Chastel, the rotten remains of a human. The legend of Chastel grew to play a vital role in werewolf mythology, with French novelist Abel Chevalier suggesting Chastel used a silver bullet to make the kill. Folklore surrounding the beasts of Gvaudan became tarnished when multiple creatures met death, while attacks on humans continued. J. Smith, a professor of history at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, pointed an academic eye at the tale and monsters of the Gvaudan. Dr. Smith suggests that Jean-Baptiste Duhamel played a large role in stirring up fear surrounding the beast, with Duhamel calling the beast of Gvaudan a sign of God's anger with the people of France. Duhamel's reasoning for sensationalizing the beast stems from a desire to recoup honor from numerous defeats during the 7 Years' War. Professor Smith concludes that the beast of Gvaudan is not a single creature, but a name given to a collection of wolves in the area. This is from newanimal.org, article of the beast of Gvaudan. If the beast existed and wasn't any normal species, what could it be? Most explanations put forth hybrid or deformed versions of the several known species that most resembled the beast of Gvaudan. The idea of wolf-dog hybrids was popular for so long that it was almost accepted that the solution had been found. However, they would have to be pretty odd wolf-dog hybrids in order to adhere to the core description of the beast. A weird bear mutant might work if it were mutated in just the right way, but it would need a tail. Hyenas just are not big enough to be the beast, so once again we would need to propose a mutant or hybrid, as well as the problem that hyenas have been extinct in Europe for a long time. Since cryptozoologists are only ultimately interested in discovering new species or subspecies, if the beast was proven to be a mutant or hybrid of some kind, then it would cease to be of interest to cryptozoology. If the beast of Gvaudan was a new species or subspecies, there are several possibilities. It could be a new bear, a new big cat, some sort of survival of a prehistoric European hyena, or something even more exotic. There is, in fact, a type of animal that fits the core description of the beast exactly, but it is extinct and would hardly be expected to have survived in Europe of all places. This group of animals would be the Mesoonychids. Yeah. Try to figure that one out. A presumably extinct group of hoofed predators. The big Mesoonychid looked much like a hyena and was the size of a horse. Some other reports that may describe Mesoonikids come from Armenia and Assyria about the year 800, and describe pig-like beasts that are vicious predators, but these have huge floppy ears instead of the beast's tiny round ears. Another possibility, the Amazon rainforest of South America. The creature is called the tapir lawara. As you can see, there are many explanations for the beast of Gavaudan. Scientists run from one explanation to another as fads come and go. Almost everything that is remotely conceivable has been proposed as an explanation. This page has been limited to a discussion of the more likely prospects as viewed by the science of cryptozoology, because otherwise this web page would be the size of a small book. There are other explanations rooted more in fields other than cryptozoology, such as the study of folklore and hoaxes. For example, the fictional movie Brotherhood of the Wolf presents an elaborate explanation for the beast that manages to neatly tie up most of the loose ends that frustrate scientists, by proposing that it was an elaborate hoax. This next is from alteredimensions.net. Upon careful examination, the animal proved to be an enormous wolf measuring a little over 6 feet, weighing 143 pounds, with a huge head and fangs about 1.5 inches long. A report was sent back to the king stating, "We declare by the present report signed from our hand, we never saw a big wolf that could be compared to this one. This is why we estimate this could be the fearsome beast that caused so much damage." There was great rejoicing in the region's villages. "The beast is dead, the beast is dead." Rewards were passed out, and townspeople breathed a sigh of relief. But much to their dismay, on December 2nd of that same year, the attacks resumed in earnest, with dozens more citizens killed or injured. The hunt for the creature was resumed. Several months after the supposed killing of the beast, 3 women were traveling to church near a wooded area when a dark man approached them and offered to escort them through the woods near an area called Favart. The women kindly refused. As the man left into the woods, he gently touched one of the women, and with his hand, to her surprise, the hand was covered with fur. Moments later, soldiers came running out of the woods and warned the women not to enter. The beast Gavaudan has just been spotted in the forest. In a similar incident, around the same time, 2 women from Escurias were on their way to Mass when the wolf accosted them. They noted that the wind blew his shirt up, his body was covered with fur. It was not long before the beast progressed from attacking women and children to attacking men, and in some cases even attacking groups of men. Witnesses noted that when stabbed or poked at close range, the creature was impervious to the pain. Hunters noted that firing their weapons into the beast at close range produced little or no effect on the creature. Townspeople were baffled as to what sort of creature they were dealing with. In June 6, 1765 edition of the English periodical The St. James Chronicles, it remarked, "It appears he is neither a wolf, tiger, or hyena, but probably a mongrel, generated between the last two, and forming, as it were, a new species." During the summer of 1765, the slaughter of children was particularly gruesome. By this time, stories of the invincible beasts had reached every corner of Europe. On June 19, 1767, after 4 years of brutal attacks, a local hunter named Jean Chastel was hunting with a large hunting party when he sat down to read his Bible and pray. During his prayer, the creature came into sight and stood staring at Chastel. Chastel calmly finished his prayer and stood to shoot down the beast. Believing the beast was a werewolf, Chastel had loaded a custom-made silver bullet into his gun, with which he fired on the creature and killed the beast with a single shot. Noting that the beast fit the description provided by witnesses, the corpse of the beast was gutted and remains of a small girl were found inside the belly of the beast. The body was sent to the king, who proudly displayed the beast to the public. And that's the story of the beast of Gavaudan, basic overview. Now we're going to go into some other man-eating wolf stories that are pretty interesting. Whatever. Alright. The Wolf of Ansbach. Initially a nuisance preying on livestock, the wolf soon began attacking women and children. The citizens of Ansbach believed the animal to be a werewolf, a reincarnation of their late and cruel mayor, whose recent death had gone unlamented. During an organized hunt, the locals succeeded in driving the wolf from a nearby forest and chasing it down with dogs until it leaped into an uncovered well for protection. Trapped, the wolf was slain, and its carcass paraded through the city marketplace. It was dressed in a man's clothing, and after severing its muzzle, the crowd placed a mask, wig, and beard upon its head, giving it the appearance of the former burgermeister, who was the mayor. The wolf's body was then hanged from a gibbet for all to see until it underwent preservation for permanent display at a local museum. The wolf of Sarlat attacked and wounded 17 people in Sarlat, France, and in June 1766, unlike other wolves that had become man-eaters, it was notable in that it attacked only grown men, standing on its hind legs to get at the face and neck. A burgher of St. Julien, Monsieur Dubé de Descamps, gathered a hunting party of 100 men and set out after the animal. In the pursuit, the wolf turned on the hunters, injuring 2 of them. Dubex trapped the wolf in a meadow, dismounted, and shot it at point-blank range as it charged at him. The wolf was roughly 30 inches at the withers and 4 feet 4 inches in length. The huntsman noted that its appearance combined physical characteristics typical of foxes and greyhounds, suggesting hybridization. And another one, the wolf of Soissons, these are all from Wikipedia, was a man-eating wolf which terrorized the commune of Soissons northeast of Paris over a period of 2 days. In 1765, attacking 18 people, 4 of whom died from their wounds. The first victims of the wolf were a pregnant woman and her unborn child, attacked in the parish of Septmont on the last day of February. Diligent locals had taken the infant, a scant 4 or 5 months old, from the womb to be baptized before it died when the wolf struck again, not 300 yards from the scene of the first attack. Madame d'Amberif and her son survived only by fighting together. On the 1st of March, near the hamlet of Courcelles, these French names are getting me. A man was attacked by the wolf and survived with head wounds. The next victims were 2 young boys named Boucher and Maréchal, who were attacked on the road to Paris, both badly wounded. A farmer on horseback lost part of his face to the wolf before escaping to a local mill, where a 17-year-old boy was caught unaware and slain. After these atrocities, the wolf fled to Bazaches, where it partially decapitated a woman and severely wounded a girl, who ran screaming to the village for help. 4 citizens of Bazoches set an ambush at the body of the latest victim, but when the wolf returned, it proved too much for them, and the villagers soon found themselves fighting for their lives. The arrival of more peasants from the village finally put the wolf to flight, chasing it into a courtyard where it fought with a chained dog. When the chain broke, the wolf was pursued through a pasture where it killed a number of sheep, and into a stable where a servant and cattle were mutilated. The episode ended when Anton Severo, former member of the local militia, tracked the wolf to Small Lane armed with a pitchfork. The wolf sprang at him, but he managed to pin his head to the ground with the instrument, holding it down for roughly 15 minutes before an armed peasant came to his aid and killed the animal. Severo received a reward of 300 livres from Louis XV of France for his bravery. And another, the wolves of Paris, were a man-eating wolf pack that killed 40 people in Paris in 1450. The animals entered the city during the winter through breaches in its walls. A wolf named Courtade, or Bobtail, was the leader of the pack. Reports of the animal being reddish in color may be indicative of an Iberian wolf, perhaps having migrated from the Pyrenees. And you notice that a lot of these wolves are reddish in color, which is, I don't know what that means, but it's kind of interesting. Eventually the wolves were killed when Parisians, furious at the deaths, lured Courtade and his pack into the heart of the city. There the Parisians stoned and speared to death the wolves at the Parvis of Notre Dame Cathedral. The wolves of Périgord were a pack of man-eating wolves that plagued the northwestern regions of Périgord, France in February 1766. According to official records, the wolves killed 18 people and wounded many others before they were eliminated. Louis XV took personal interest in the case, rewarding a man for his courage and saving a victim of the wolves with the promise of a cash reward and an exemption of militia service for his children. The man, who was in his 60s and armed with a billhook, had rescued an armed marksman and his companions from marauding wolves after their gunpowder had been depleted. Records indicate that citizens of Périgord, known as the Sieurs de Fayard, killed 3 wolves. and a professional hunter slew a fourth. A general hunt ended in the death of 2 wolves, male and female. The female was noted as having a double row of teeth in the jaw, suggesting the possibility of wolf-dog hybridization. A werewolf, and this is from Wikipedia as well. This is the article on a werewolf. A werewolf, also known as a lycanthrope, or lycanthropy, is a mythological or folkloric human with the ability to shapeshift into a wolf or an anthropomorphic, wolf-like creature, either purposely or after being placed under a curse, and or lycanthropic affliction via a bite or scratch from a werewolf or some other means. This transformation is often associated with the appearance of the full moon, as popularly noted by the medieval chronicler Gervase of Tilbury, and perhaps in earlier times among the ancient Greeks through the writings of Petronius. In addition to the natural characteristics inherent to both wolves and humans, werewolves were often attributed strength and speed far beyond those of wolves or men. The werewolf is generally held as a European character, although its lore spread through the world in later times. Shapeshifters, similar to werewolves, are common in tales from all over the world, most notably amongst the Native Americans, though most of them involve animal forms other than the wolves. Werewolves are a frequent subject of modern fiction, although fictional werewolves have been attributed traits distinct from those of original folklore. For example, the idea is that werewolves are only vulnerable to silver bullets, or that they can cause others to become werewolves by biting or wounding them, derived from works of modern fiction. Werewolves continue to endure in modern culture and in fiction with books, films, and television shows, cementing the werewolf's stance as a dominant figure in horror. Becoming a werewolf. Various methods for becoming a werewolf have been reported, one of the simplest being the removal of clothing and putting on a belt made of wolfskin, probably as a substitute for the consumption of an entire animal skin, which is also frequently described. Yeah, a lot of people back in the ancient days when they'd go out and hunt, they would wear wolf skins, and they would, do some kind of a chant and dance around in a circle and get themselves all worked up into the quote-unquote spirit of the wolf. But yeah, it's fairly interesting because some cultures state that that's where men learned how to hunt, was from the dog and the wolf, which is pretty believable to me. Anyways, in other case, the body is rubbed with a magic salve. Drinking rainwater out of the footprint of the animal in question, or from certain enchanted streams, were also considered effectual modes of accomplishing metamorphosis. The 16th century Swedish writer Olaus Magnus says that the Livonian werewolves were initiated by draining a cup of specially prepared beer and repeating a set formula. Roustan, in his Songs of the Russian People, gives the form of incantation still familiar in Russia. In Italy, France, and Germany, it was said that a man or woman could turn into a werewolf if he or she, on a certain Wednesday or Friday, slept outside on a summer night with the full moon shining directly on his face. In other cases, the transformation was supposedly accomplished by satanic allegiance for the most loathsome ends, often for the sake of sating a craving for human flesh. The werewolves, writes Richard Verstegen, in Restitution of Decayed Intelligence, 1628, are certain sorcerers who, having anointed their bodies with an ointment, which they make by the instinct of the devil, and putting on a certain enchanted girdle, does not only unto the view of others seem as wolves, but to their own thinking have both the shape and nature of wolves, so long as they wear the said girdle. And they do dispose themselves as very wolves in worrying and killing and most of humane creatures. Such were the views about lycanthropy current throughout the continent of Europe when Verstegen wrote. The phenomena of repercussion, the power of animal metamorphosis or of sending out a familiar, real or spiritual, as a messenger, and the supernormal powers conferred by association with such a familiar, are also attributed to the magician, male and female, all the world over, and which superstitions are closely parallel to, if not identical with, lycanthropic beliefs, the occasional involuntary character of lycanthropy being almost the sole of distinguishing feature. In another direction, the phenomena of repercussion is asserted to manifest itself in connection with the bush soul of the West African and the Nagul of Central America. But though there was no line of demarcation to be drawn on logical grounds, the assumed power of the magician and the intimate association of the bush soul, or the nagual, with a human being are not termed lycanthropy. Nevertheless, it will be well to touch on both these beliefs here. The curse of lycanthropy was also considered by some scholars as being a divine punishment. Werewolf literature shows many examples of God or saints allegedly cursing those who invoked their wrath with werewolfism. Such is the case of Lycaon, who was turned into a wolf by Zeus as punishment for slaughtering one of his own sons and serving his remains to the gods as a sinner. Those who were excommunicated by the Catholic Church were also said to become werewolves. Part man, part beast. The power of transforming others into wild beasts was attributed only to malignant sorcerers, but to Christian saints as well. Omnis angeli bon et mali ex virtuit naturali abent potestatem transmutandi corpora nostra, which means, all angels, good and bad, have the power of transmutating our bodies, was the dictum of St. Thomas Aquinas. St. Patrick was said to have transported the Welsh king Vereticus into a wolf. Natalis supposedly cursed an illustrious Irish family whose members were each doomed to be a wolf for 7 years. In other tales, the divine agency is even more direct. While in Russia, again, men supposedly became werewolves when incurring the wrath of the devil. A notable exception to the association of lycanthropy and the devil comes from a rare and lesser-known account of an 80-year-old man named Theus. In 1692, and I would say it's Jurgenborg, Livonia, Theus testified under oath that he and other werewolves were the hounds of God. He claimed they were warriors who went down into hell to do battle with witches and demons. Their efforts ensured that the devil and his minions did not carry off the grain from local failed crops down to hell. Theus was steadfast in his assertions, claiming that werewolves in Germany and Russia also did battle with the devil's minions in their own versions of hell, and insisted that when werewolves died, their souls were welcomed into heaven as reward for their service. Theus was ultimately sentenced to 10 lashes for idolatry and superstitious belief. A distinction is often made between voluntary and involuntary werewolves. The former are generally thought to have made a pact, usually with the devil, and morph into werewolves at night to indulge in nefarious acts. Involuntary werewolves, on the other hand, are werewolves by an accident of birth or health. In some cultures, individuals often born during a new moon or suffering from epilepsy were considered likely to be werewolves. Becoming a werewolf simply by being bitten or scratched by another werewolf as a form of contagion is common in modern horror fiction, but this kind of transmission is rare in legend, unlike the case in vampirism. Even if the denotation of lycanthropy is limited to the wolf metamorphosis of living human beings, the beliefs classed together under this head are far from uniform, and the term is somewhat capriciously applied. The transformation may be temporary or permanent. The were-animal may be the man himself, metamorphosized. May be his double, whose activity leaves the real man to all appearance unchanged. May be his soul, which gives forth seeking whom it may devour, leaving its body in a state of trance. Or it may be no more than the messenger of the human being, a real animal or familiar spirit, whose intimate connection with its owner is shown by the fact that any injury to it is believed to effect, or a phenomenon known as repercussion, to cause a corresponding injury to the human being. Various methods have existed for removing the werewolf form. In antiquity, the ancient Greeks and Romans believed in the power of exhaustion in curing people of lycanthropy. The victim would be subjected to long periods of physical activity in the hope of being purged of the malady. This practice stemmed from the fact that many alleged werewolves would be left feeling weak and debilitated after committing depredations. In medieval Europe, traditionally, there are 3 methods one can use to cure a victim of werewolfism. Medicinally, as in the use of wolf's bane, surgically, or by exorcism. However, many of the cures advocated by medieval medical practitioners proved fatal to the patients. A Sicilian belief of Arabic origin holds that a werewolf can be cured of its ailment by striking it on the forehead or scalp with a knife. Another belief in the same culture involves the piercing of the werewolf's hands with nails. Sometimes less extreme methods were used. In the German lowlands of Schleswig-Holstein, a werewolf could be cured if one were to simply address it 3 times by its Christian name, while one Danish belief holds that simply scolding a werewolf will cure it. Conversion to Christianity is also a common method of removing werewolfism in the medieval period. A devotion to St. Hubert has also been cited as both a cure for and protection from lycanthropes. And this next reading, I think, is interesting. It's from physicspurdue.edu ASTR2631/forum/Sirius about the dog star Sirius. Now, the dog star Sirius was a pretty big deal in Egyptian religion, Egyptian mythology, and it goes into their belief in the dog, but this probably won't go too much into that, but it is interesting that they held in such high esteem the dog star, named it after the dog, whatever. Alright, the dog star. Sirius is the brightest star in the constellation Canis Major and is also the brightest star we can see in the northern hemisphere. In addition to these 2 facts, there are also some interesting tidbits about the star which are less well known. The ancient Egyptians called Sirius the dog star, after their god Osiris, whose head and pictograms resembled that of a dog. In Egypt, Sirius shines for most of the summer, and since it is such a bright star, the Egyptians actually believed that the additional light from this nearby star was responsible for the summer heat. This, of course, is not true. However, the origin of the phrase "the dog days of summer" comes from this ancient belief, the dog star being the root of this common saying. Now, this is an article, Peter Stump from Wikipedia. Peter Stump was a German farmer accused of being a serial killer and a cannibal, also known as the Werewolf of Bedburg. In 1589, Stump had one of the most lurid and famous werewolf trials in history. After being stretched on the rack, but before actual torture commenced, he confessed to having practiced black magic since he was 12. He claimed that the devil had given him a magical girdle which enabled him to metamorphose into the likeness of a greedy, devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with eyes great and large, which in the night sparkled like fire, a mouth great and wide, with most sharp and cruel teeth, a huge body and mighty paws. Removing his belt, he said, made him transform back into his human form. For 25 years, Stump had allegedly been an insatiable bloodsucker, who gorged on the flesh of goats, lambs, and sheep, as well as men, women, and children. Being threatened with torture, he confessed to killing and eating 14 children. 2 pregnant women and their fetuses. One of the 14 children was his own son, whose brain he was reported to have devoured. Not only was Stump accused of being a serial murderer and cannibal, but also of having an incestuous relationship with his daughter, who was sentenced to die with him, and he coupled with a distant relative, which was also considered to be incestuous according to the law. In addition to this, he confessed to having had intercourse with a succubus sent to him by the devil. The Beast of Bray Road, also from Wikipedia. The Beast of Bray Road, or the Bray Road Beast, is a cryptozoological creature first reported in the 1980s on a rural road outside of Elkhorn, Wisconsin. The same label has been applied well beyond the initial location to any unknown creature from southern Wisconsin or northern Illinois that is described as having similar characteristics to those reported in the initial set of sightings. Bray Road itself is a quiet country road near the community of Elkhorn. The rash of claimed sightings in the late 1980s and early 1990s prompted a local newspaper, the Walworth County Week, to assign reporter Linda Godfrey to cover the story. Godfrey initially was skeptical, but later became convinced of the sincerity of the witness. Her series of articles later became a book titled The Beast of Bray Road, Trailing Wisconsin's Werewolf. The Beast of Bray Road is described by purported witnesses in several ways: as a bear-like creature, as a hairy biped resembling Bigfoot, and as an unusually large, 2 to 4 feet tall on all fours, 7 feet tall standing up, intelligent wolf-like creature apt to walk on its hind legs and weighing 400 to 700 pounds. It is also said that its fur is a brown-gray color, resembling a dog or bear. Although the Beast of Bray Road has not been seen to transform from a human into a wolf, in any of the sightings it has been labeled a werewolf in newspaper articles. A number of animal-based theories have been proposed. They include that the creature is an undiscovered variety of wild dog, a wahila, said to be a giant prehistoric wolf similar to Amarok, or a wolf dog, or a koi dog. It is also possible that hoaxes and mass hysteria have caused some falsehoods and sightings of normal creatures to all be artificially lumped under the same label. Concurrently with the sightings in Wisconsin, there was a rash of similar encounters in the neighboring state of Michigan. Following the release of The Legend, a popular song about the Michigan Dog Man in 1987, author Steve Cook received dozens of reports, including photograph and film evidence of the creature. There is no known link between the sightings in adjoining states other than the similarity of the creature described. In 2002, a film surfaced, supposedly made in the 1970s. It became known as the Gable film because of a paper label affixed to the box. The film, just over 3 minutes long, shows at first what looks like simple home movies of kids riding snowmobiles, a man crashing his truck. I'm not sure how that worked. Near the end of the film, the person videotaping is riding down a remote dirt road when he stops and goes out to check what looks to be a huge bulky creature on all fours. The creature suddenly runs after the cameraman, who tries to run away, but before there is a rustling and a brief shot of teeth and fangs before the camera falls to the ground. A second film was discovered and showed a police investigation. After the cameraman in the first film is found dead, the police camera pans over to two officers examining the body, which is revealed to have been torn in half by whatever attacked the cameraman. In posts to several cryptozoology and related forums, a user identified as Don Coyote stated that he knew a relative of the dead body in the film. The relative said that the officer saw something that was apparently very traumatic. The officer lost his mind and began rambling. Dogs have 4 toes, bears have 5. For years, the debate raged about whether the films were real or not. Finally, in 2010, on the History Channel program Monster Quest, Steve Cook confirmed that both films were fake, made in 2002 by Micah Grusa, who had been a longtime fan of Cook's The Legend, a song about the Dog Man. The creature in the first film was actually a man in a ghillie suit. The body in the second film was made of painted styrofoam. Although Monster Quest dramatized the event to make it appear that their expert had analyzed and found curious flaws in the film, then dispatched werewolf expert Linda Godfrey to interrogate Cook to determine the truth. Cook claimed in a lengthy blog post that he informed all parties involved in the production that the film was fake weeks before filming on the episode began. Roman mythology. According to the Roman tradition, a wolf was responsible for the childhood survival of the future founders of Rome, Romulus and Remus. The twin babies were ordered to be killed by their great-uncle Amulius. The servant ordered to kill them, however, relented and placed the two on the banks of the Tiber River. The river, which was in flood, rose and gently carried the cradle and the twins downstream, where under the protection of the river deity Tiberinus, they would be adopted by a she-wolf, known as Lupa in Latin, an animal sacred to Mars. As a consequence, the Italian wolf is the national animal of the modern Italian Republic. The comedian Plautus used the image of wolves to ponder the cruelty of man as a wolf unto man. In Native American mythology, wolves were generally revered by tribes that survived by hunting, but were thought little of by those that survived through agriculture. Some tribes, such as the Nunavut of northern and northwestern Alaska and the Naskapi of Labrador, respected the wolf's hunting skill and tried to emulate the wolf in order to hunt successfully. Others see the wolf as a guide. The Tanana of Alaska believed the wolves were once men and viewed them as brothers. In the cardinal directions of the Plains Indians, the wolf represented the west, while for the Pawnee it represented the southeast. According to the Pawnee creation myth, the wolf was the first creature to experience death. The Wolf Star, enraged at not having been invited to attend a council on how the earth should be made, sent a wolf to steal the whirlwind bag of the storm that comes out of the west, which contained the first humans. Upon being freed from the bag, the humans killed the wolf, thus bringing death into the world. The Pawnee, being both an agricultural and hunting people, associated the wolf with both corn and the bison. The birth and death of the wolf star, which that goes back to the dog star, same thing. The birth and death of the wolf star, Sirius, the dog star to the Egyptians, was to them a reflection of the wolf's coming and going down the path of the Milky Way, known as Wolf Road. Astrotheology. Wolves were not always portrayed positively in Native American culture. The Netsilik, Inuit, and Takanalak Arnalak believed that the sea woman Nuliuk's home was guarded by wolves. The Naskapis believed that the caribou afterlife is guarded by giant wolves that kill careless hunters who venture too near. The Navajo people feared witches in wolf's clothing called Maikab. Wolves were feared by the Silgoten, who believed that contact with wolves would result in nervous illness or death. Here's one. Going back to the Greek mythology. In Greek mythology, Lycaon was a king of Arcadia, son of Pelasgus and Meliboea, who in the most popular version of the myth tested Zeus by serving him a dish of his slaughtered and dismembered son in order to see whether Zeus was truly omniscient. In return for these gruesome deeds, Zeus transformed Lycaon into the form of a wolf and killed Lycaon's 50 sons by lightning bolts, except possibly Nyctimus, who was a slaughtered child and instead became restored to life. Despite being notorious for his horrific deeds, Lycaon was also remembered as a culture hero. He was believed to have founded the city Lycosera, to have established a cult of Zeus, Lycaeus, and to have started the tradition of the Lycian Games, which Pausanias thinks were older than the Panathenaic Games. According to Hyginus, Lycaon dedicated the first temple to Hermes of Cyllene. The Arcadian town Ninacris was thought to have been named after the wife of Lycaon. And I think that about does it. Werewolves.